The system identification is a statistical method, okay, which builds the system model using the system data itself. Okay, we are using the system's output data together with the system input data to build a model for the system. This is the only definition which we have. Okay, you can go through this text, okay, for further details. Now this the most important part is the data collection during experiment. Okay, then determining the model structure. We have white box modeling, then gray box. We are following a black box, in fact the gray box modeling. Now these are the model evaluation steps. Now we have reached to a situation where you can start with the MATLAB system identification toolbox. So MATLAB provide two methods of system identification. The first one is, okay, the first approach is the system identification using app or using the MATLAB app. The second approach is the system identification using the command line. I personally prefer the system identification using command line, okay, but I would also suggest to go through this video. Okay, whatever you like you can choose, but in this work I will be detailing the system identification using command line only. Okay, so you can launch this system identification app by simply typing the keyword system identification. The I should be capital here, or ident. In the older version of MATLAB you can type the ident, and in the newer version of MATLAB, I think after 2016 or 17, you can type system identification, and this app will be launched. Okay, you can go through these two links for further details. Now, I will be system identification using the command line. Now, if let us suppose that you be a vector, right? You be a vector which contains the data points or the waveform points of the applied input to the system. Okay, so you will be treated as the applied input to the system, and the corresponding output is recorded in another vector, okay, which is the system's response measured experimentally. So u is this is the applied input to the system, and y is the system's output. Fine. And the sampling rate or the sampling time after which is each data point in these vectors are recorded is suppose 0.1 second. In this example I have taken that. Now the first work which we do is that we gather the information. Okay, we inject the information into the MATLAB's workspace. Now the syntax for that is that it is the ID data. ID data, you can remember that ID data, identification data. Okay, ID data, you can start a bracket. You put this this response vector, this output vector here. Okay, and you keep the input vector here, and this will be separated by a comma with the sampling time. You simply tell here the at what sampling time you are recording the data, and you keep any variable name. Here I have used the variable name or the object name, you can say, oh okay, as data1. Now after this, you can be assured that you have given this information to the system, that what is your input data, what is your output data, and what is your sampling time. Now the next approach is the estimating the system models. Here I have chosen only the system's transfer function, because this transfer function is the, I think, the most simplest model of all. Okay, you can go for higher models. For example, you can go for nonlinear models, you can go for fractional order if you want. Okay, now the syntax for that will be, now m1 is the model name only. The API for that is TFEST, means the transfer function estimation. Okay, TFEST, you can learn that. You can start a bracket and put the entire data here. So you are putting this data set data1 or the object name 1 to the TFEST. It means indirectly you are saying the TFEST that you have this output vector y and this input vector u, and you are also telling this TFEST about the sampling time as well, or the sampling rate. Now you decide the model structure here. Here P denotes the number of poles which you want to keep in your transfer function, in your estimated transfer function, and the number of zeros will be denoted by Z. Okay, after you run this, then MATLAB will give you a transfer function with name M1, okay, which will have the number of poles and the number of zeros. Okay, now once this transfer function is ready, you can compare or simulate, or you can evaluate the performance of this transfer function by using this command. This command is compare. Compare will contain this initial information, this initial system information denoted by data one here, and you have to compare this initial data with the model response M1. Okay, fine. Now I have taken a very simple example of a typical DC motor. So in this slide, I will be modeling the dynamics of a DC motor. Okay, since all of you are from the electrical or control background, okay, so it will be very easy for you to understand the system's behavior or the system's input and output. Okay, so this is the DC motor which we are talking about, and we want to clear some assumption that what we are assuming, that this will work under the assumption that this DC motor is behaving absolutely linearly. Okay, there is no non-linearity involved in this. Okay, also we do not know anything about this, about the internal structure of the DC motor. We do not know anything about the winding structure, whether it is a lap winding or it is a wave winding. We simply cannot say anything about that. Okay, what is the orientation of poles inside that, how many number of poles there, we simply do not know nothing. The only thing which we know, okay, as an outsider to this DC motor, is that this is the applied input ut. This applied input is the pulsating voltage which we apply to the electrical domain or the electrical terminal of the DC motor. Fine, this is the electrical terminal, and this DC motor is transferring this electrical energy to the mechanical energy over here. Okay, so the input to this system or input to this DC motor is simply this pulsating voltage, which we have recorded over a period of 40 seconds. Fine, so this is ut, this is the applied voltage. Now one of the output of the DC motor which we have recorded for the same duration of time is the angular position. So okay, denoted by y1. So this is the angular position measured in radian. Okay, this is and this is the response of this system or this DC motor for these perturbation. So the first objective is to estimate a transfer function M1, okay, which will relate or which will give the y1s, the Laplace transform of y1 divided by the ut. Fine, okay, this is our first objective. Now with this with another data set, this is our second objective, that we want to estimate a transfer function given by y2s by us. So this is one work relating this, and this is one work here, and relating these and this is another work. Okay, so we want to estimate a transfer function which will relate to these two, and this is the response of the angular velocity of this rotor recorded like this. But the idea of but the idea here is to make you understand that how the system response or how the system performance is evaluated in the presence of a noisy data, since this is a very noisy data you can see, and in the absence of a noisy data. Okay, so yeah, yes, it may happen that there may be some noise here, but it is simply not visible. But on the same scale, okay, there are a lot of noise which we can say. Fine, I think it's time to open your MATLAB. I will be opening the data set source from here. So first of all, I will be trying to model this one. Okay, let's switch to this. First of all, I will be trying to model this one. For that, we need the Angular position data and the system's input data, right? So this is the system's input. Let's plot it here in the MS Excel itself. So this is the system's input which we will be using. Okay, and this is the system's output, which is the Angular position here. Fine. This is the Angular position which we want to model. Okay. Now coming to the other slide. Now in this example, we will be modeling the Angular position. Okay. So we provide the system identification toolbox, the data which contain the information of the Angular position and the information of the input voltage, and the transfer function should be like this. For that, we will first create the data object data1. This is the data1. This is the variable name, and we type in MATLAB's workspace about the ID data. Then there will be a variable which will contain the Angular position data points, which we will keep here, and u is the applied input to the system, and the sampling rate is 0.1. Okay, so we simply copy the data points of the input domain of the electrical domain, you can say. And okay, this will be u. So I will paste all those data points to this variable. Okay, so this variable has a set of 400 data points. Fine. Now we will go to the Excel again. Then we will copy the position data. We copy here, and we go to the MATLAB again. We create a new variable y1, I would say. Fine. So what we have done is here that we have brought these systems input and output data here. Okay. Now here you can see that the response, you can clearly see that the response has a time duration of 40 seconds. Okay, and since I have said that each data point has been sampled after 0.1 second, so obviously there will be a total of 400 data points. Okay, so obviously this is the 400 data points which we have obtained. Now going back to the slide again, so we need to use this ID data. Okay, we will go to MATLAB. We will write the function like this, or we will write the command like this. This will be data1 equal to ID data. A bracket will be there. I want to put this y1 here, y1 comma, I want to put this u here, u, and I want to tell this MATLAB about the sampling rate. Okay, I will not be running this entire code at a time using the run option. I will be running them individually. Just select all this text which we have to run, right click and evaluate this section. So in this workspace we can see our data1, which has an object name ID data, right? Now if you want to see what kind of data this ID data has contains, you can plot this data1. So this is the data one which we have obtained. Data one contains the system's input. Data one contains the system's input as voltage and the system response like this. Fine. Now the second step is to find the transfer function denoted by this. Okay, we will be using this similar name. Okay, now we want to estimate a model named M with P number of poles and Z number of zeros, and we will therefore use the command like tfest, a bracket will be there. Now we will put this data 1 will be there, okay, and P and Z. So I want to run that. Do you think that this will run? No. The answer is no, because TF needs the number of poles and the number of zeros. Okay. So let's start with the most basic transfer function, you can say. Okay, the most elementary transfer function will consist of one pole and no zeros. Okay. Now let's change the name here as well. The model will be M10, which will contain one pole and no zeros. We will run this. Yes, the model has been developed. Now if you want to see the model M1, just type the model name M10, and we have obtained a transfer function like this. Now the system identification toolbox has given a transfer function this. Okay, now we want to compare or evaluate the performance of this transfer function. For that we have a command called compare. We will put the data one here. Okay, and we will write the name of the model. Fine, are you getting this? Then we will evaluate this section. So we have got a plot in which there is a comparison between the experimental data, which is shown gray in color, and the blue color is the model response of the model or the transfer function M10, which is having no zeros and one poles. Fine. So since this is a very accurate model, in fact this seems to be a very accurate model, so do you think that this needs some improvement? I would suggest yes, you try different combinations of poles and zeros to verify this. Now let's start with another combination of pole and zeros, and I've copied this and pasted here. Now I will keep the number of poles to 1, okay, and change the number of zeros from 0 to 1. Okay, I will change the variable or the model name as well. So this is the model M1 we want to develop, which has one pole and one zeros, and we want that after developing this model, okay, we want to compare this response of this model with the earlier model as well. So in the compare command, we will put this model M11 like this. This will ensure that the experimental data gets compared with the model response M10, and it also gets compared with the model response M11. Now we will run all of them together like this. So we have got an improvement of around 3%, you can say. Okay, so now do you think that this model is sufficient enough? So let's zoom a small portion of this model, of this response. This is the experimental uh, response. Okay, this is the response of M11, this is the response of M10. Actually we wanted a model which should pass through this. Okay, now let's move to another model, and this time we will be changing the number of poles to 2, and we will keep the number of zeros to 1. So the model name will be M21. Okay, and we will place this M21 here. We will select all this. Okay, and we will evaluate this section. So we have got an improvement of more than 4%, you can say. So I think this is the model which we wanted. Okay, this yellow line is almost passing through this experimental data, and whatever misfits are there, I think these are mainly because of the presence of very small number of white noises you can say. So how can we say that say that the misfit which is present in this model is due to the presence of noises? So there is another command. Okay, the name of the command is resid, resid. Okay, resid we will be presenting the resid with the data, and we will present the model for which we want to do the residual analysis. This is data one, and we are doing this residual analysis for the model M21. Okay, so this is the residue correlation plots for a very ideal model. Here you can see that we have an auto correlation and the cross correlation. If you go into the literature of these two, it will take a lot of time, but for the sake of simplicity, for the time being, I would say that for a very good model, it is important to model all the signal component of the measured response. Okay, and obviously a model will not be able to model the white noises. So this is the indication of this that of a very good model. Here the cross correlation values for a large number of lags lies within this confidence region or this confidence interval. Okay, and a large number of lags uh, uh, except this lag at 0 lies in this confidence region. Okay, so this is the structure, or this is the residue correlation plot for a very good model. Now we will be plotting this residue for the earlier model, say for M11. Now when we plot this, we get a very different correlation. Here you can see that a large number of lags are there, which is outside this confidence region. It means that yes, the model is performing accurate up to 94%, but still there are a lot of signal component which remains unfitted by this model M11. But in case of M21, the only unfitted things are, or the majority unfitted waveform are due to the presence of white noises. So, mm, so I think we have done this part. We have reached to a situation where we can say that we have developed the transfer function with 2 poles and 1 zeros, which gave an accuracy of 98.35%. And this model was sufficient to model the angular position of the DC motor. Now we will see another data set. Okay, we will see another data set which will model the angular velocity this time, and this has got a lot of noises here. Now we will go to our Excel. We will copy the entire data of the angular velocity. Okay, now let me delete all these stuffs. Now I am creating a variable named y2. Y2 will contain the system information of the angular velocity. Fine, I'll be using a new tab here. So I want to develop this model. Fine. So clearly it will be data2 equal to id data. I think I have to move fast because only 20 minutes are remaining. Okay, id data. Now we will start with y2. In fact, the system's input is the same and the sampling rate is 0.1. Okay, now we will run this. Okay, we have a data2 here. Now let's plot this data2 like this. So we have this input output data plot. This is the system's input, the system's voltage, and this is the response of the angular velocity. Okay, now we want to create a model again, MPZ, which will be followed by TFEST. We will keep the data2 here. We will put the number of poles like this, the number of zeros like this. So what number of poles combination do you want? Let's start from the basic. We will keep the number of poles to p, number of zeros to 0, and we will rename this like this. Fine, and let's run this one. So M10 is a transfer function, okay, like this. Now we will evaluate the performance of the model. Compare data 2 with M10, okay. So this model is giving an accuracy of 84.47%. Okay, so just by visualizing, you can definitely say that yes, this need a lot of improvement. But one thing which you have to keep in mind, that this data was having a lot of white noises, particularly at these positions, particularly at the higher magnitude. Okay, so whatever be the situation, let us try another model to model this. Now we will be using the data, the model M11, which is which will have one pole and it will contain no zeros, 10, sorry, it will be M11. Now let us compare all of them. So you can see that we have improved to only 0.04%, and that too at the cost of one additional zeros. Fine, I don't think this will be great if we use something like this. Okay, now let us try another model. So let's increase the number of poles to 2, and the number of zeros should remain to 1, and we will compare the model response to 1 to now we will evaluate this. Now the results are very interesting. Now that even if we have added a pole to the system transfer function, the performance deteriorated. Okay, so in a nutshell, we can say that the model which contained the one which contained one pole and no zeros is found to be sufficient enough to model this. Now I will explain that what to do with these noises. Okay, let us plot. Uh, let us have this model. So as per this response, we declare that the model which is having a model fit of 84%, okay, is best. Now in the previous slide, okay, in the previous example, we had a model which was having an accuracy of 94%, and we were telling that no, that model was not sufficient. And you will say that, sir, you are telling that this model is having accuracy of less than 85%, and you are saying that this is a very good model. I'm saying that because if we now let us draw another figure. I'm saying that because if we plot the residual plot for the same data 2 and 10, we get a very good residual plot here. Now this is a very good residual plot. It means that here you see that the cross correlation on the and the auto correlation values, all of them for a large number of lags, lies within this confidence region.